There was a brilliant guy who was a survivor of a Soviet gulag. His name's Alexander Solzhenitsyn. He gave an address to Harvard, very famous. And after he got out of the gulags, where he was sent for just having common sense, he wrote this series of books called the Gulag Archipelago. And it was about all the different gulags that the Russians had established where they just sent dissidents. Like, if you disagree with us, you lose your freedom and we send you to the gulag to work in hard labor camps. And he went and collected stories and wrote the Gulag Archipelago, which is a really, really interesting read for anybody who wants to know how communism takes root and what it looks like when it's starting in the initial stages of taking everyone's liberty away. And he talks about the suffering of the people under communism. But I love this quote that he gives because it's really simple. And at the root of communism, like I said, Marx says communism begins where atheism begins. And Solzhenitsyn basically says, that's exactly right. Listen to what he says, and we'll close with this. He says, over a half a century ago, while I was still a child, I recall a number of old people offering the following explanation for the great disasters that had befallen Russia. Men have forgotten God. That's why all this has happened. Well, since then, I've spent 50 years working on the history of our revolution. In the process, I've read hundreds of books, collected hundreds of personal testimonies, and have already contributed 8 volumes of my own toward the effort of clearing away the rubble left by the upheaval. But if I were asked today to formulate as concisely as possible the main cause of the ruinous revolution that swallowed up some 60 million of our own people, I could not put it more accurately than to repeat, men have forgotten God. That's why all this has happened.
Powerful.